Hey, this is Darth. Today we're going to do a overview of the various different Power Armor mods I'm working on. So to start off with, I release Power Armor mod kits at the start of the month, and I've got a lot of good feedback on that. People have found bugs that I've never been able to find myself. So thank you to everyone who gave feedback on that, and I think I've got them on a pretty good place now. I've added some new features, primarily the vendor radio, so you can directly buy mods from the Pip-Boy. And a big thanks to Stentorius for letting me use his scripts from the weapon mod Pip-Boy vendor, as I wouldn't be able to get the express box delivery system working without those scripts. So that feature is pretty cool, and I think that mod's in a pretty good spot. So the next thing I'm hopefully going to release is Fallout 4 Power Armor Features, an update to that. That's been a long time in the making. So that is not going to be that different at a front end level. However, at the back end, I've completely rewritten the mod. It's all eventified almost. There's no more big actor effect conditions for everything. The mod's a lot more efficient now, and it's all been rewritten in the new script compiler. And it uses an MCM extender menu instead of a normal MCM. The only thing I'm really waiting for to release this is for Into the Rough to release a new NVSE plugin, which will have eventified jump functions, so that I can, instead of trying to track the player's falling times manually, I'll instead just be able to, whenever someone lands from a jump, just see how long they've been falling, and I'll be able to immediately just fire the function instead of having constantly running scripts to track stuff, which is a lot more efficient. So that will hopefully isn't too far away, but at a user level, it's not that different from what already exists. And similarly, Recon Under Armor will be getting a big update. The current version is very buggy, just doesn't work very well. And the new version, while it is similar at a user level, is completely different under the hood and works way better because it's now effectively implemented at a engine level. So you can see I can equip my salvage power armor here. I can't unequip my recon armor while wearing it, and if I unequip my recon armor and try to put it on, I can't. So that's basically how Recon Under Armor works right now. But what's different is that I now have a DLL that allows me to have both of the Recon Armor and Salvage Power Armor equipped at the same time without swapping the armors around, without creating invisible duplicate armors or anything like that. Nope, the Recon Armor is equipped, and this is the same Recon Armor that was equipped before. Nothing's happened to it. It's still equipped. The Power Armor is just equipped over top of it. And the way this works is that Confused has made me a DLL that allows me to assign different layers to every piece of armor in the game. So the way armor works in these games is there's a series of slots. So Recon Armor and Salvage Power Armor both occupy equip slot 2. And if there's something equipped in slot 2 and you try to equip something else, the object that's already in slot 2 gets unequipped. What this new system does is it allows, if there is, say, an armor on layer 3 that is in slot 2 and an armor on layer 4 that is in slot 2, those can both be equipped at the same time, and the armor in layer 4, because that's a higher number, will appear on the player and its DR and DT will be applied, but you can still have the armor on layer 3 equipped and its object effect will still take effect. And this is super cool. It allows a ton of different applications for a bunch of different mods. I'll also be releasing just a small script runner mod, which will use keywords to basically add layers to every armor in the game. So similar to Fallout 4, you'll be able to wear clothing, and you'll be able to wear armor on top of that, and then power armor on top of that. It'll be a flexible system that's pretty easy for other mod authors or users even to interact with and make compatibility patches for. with just keyword files, and that's very cool. But one of the new applications of this, beyond just Recon Under Armor working really well, is the Power Armor chassis system, which is inspired by the Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 frames/chassis features. So as you can see, I've got this Power Armor mannequin here. This sort of works like Skyrim, where the mannequins are just NPCs with all their AI turned off. So it just stands here. I activate it. You can see it has a power value. I can enter it. I can collect it. I can open its inventory. If I open its inventory, we can see it has the armor equipped. And I can also, if I try and put, say, anti-venom in here, it just gets returned because it can't accept that. But if I put power armor, or if I put energy weapons ammo in here, it will stay. And if I leave, that energy weapons ammo will get consumed basically by the armor to charge it up. And if I drop all of this in here, we can see the power value has gone up to 100%. And just like Fallout 4, if you run out of power, you can't walk, or you can't run. You have to walk while wearing the power armor. So it basically becomes very cumbersome. And also the Fallout 4 features, the Fallout 4 Power Armor Features mod will get, most of its stuff will get disabled, just as it does now if you're using something like battery-powered power armor. So if I enter the armor here, you can see on the right side I get a little power display. And in here you can see the Power Armor chassis is equipped, and I have the armor equipped as normal. If from here I unequip this, the armor automatically gets collected onto the chassis, just like in Fallout 76, and you can see it in the Pip-Boy display there, where the above the mods value, you can see the mods on all the armors, and you can see the armor that's equipped. And if I equip it, I automatically get the armors. And just like in Fallout 4, if I hold activate, the armor comes off and drops in front of me, and I can enter. I can run around, and the armor drops in front of me. Just like in Fallout 4, just like you'd expect it to work. And I can collect it into the inventory directly from there, and we can see the armor shows up on there. If I try to equip this T51B, I need to be in power armor to equip it. So that's basically, it works exactly like you'd expect it to work from Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. And if I have it equipped, we can see I get I have a whole bunch of stuff from Fallout 4 Power Armor Features, from Power Armor mod kits. We can see that my sneak skill is reduced by 75, my science, repair, medicine, lockpick by -10, and my strength gets increased by 10 because my default strength is 1, and my strength gets to increase to 11. And that is configurable in the MCM. These other penalties are inspired by Fallout Tactics, which has effectively these same penalties when you're wearing power armor in that game. So if I open up the MCM here, I'll show you the different settings you can configure. All the mods in this series share an MCM heading, just to clean things up a bit. So we can see the Under Armor settings haven't changed at all. The T45 only setting gets disabled if you're using Power Armor chassis, as it doesn't really make sense. The Armor Required setting, if it's set to T45 right now, that does not do anything because of chassis. If I set this to all Power Armor, I would need to be wearing Recon Armor to enter a chassis at all, but otherwise these settings are identical if you're using Power Armor chassis. The helmet settings, though, do work, so you can make it so you need to have a Recon helmet equipped to equip a T45 helmet, even if wearing Power Armor, if that's what you want. But otherwise, this is basically the same as it was before. It just works way better now because everything's implemented in Engine. So the chassis settings are divided into two categories, one for the power system and one for the general chassis options. So we can see here there's a setting for the training being required or not, as Power Armor chassis has to override the default training required settings, just to make it easier for it to work. And by default, it doesn't require training. If you are playing Fallout 3 through TTW, I do recommend making training required, just because it will be easier to find the chassis within Fallout 3 than in New Vegas. You still, like in Fallout 76 and Fallout 4, you can't just loot chassis off of dead NPCs. You can take the armor off of them, but not the actual chassis, so you will need to find that, possibly either by buying it, some vendors will sell them, or by finding it out in the world. In New Vegas, this is very rare. You can only find the chassis in like locations where you would normally find power armor generally, whereas in Fallout 3, these are distributed a bit more like Fallout 4, where there's some random ones sitting on the wasteland. It's not as egregious as Fallout 4, where they're literally everywhere, but it's a bit more common in the DC wasteland. Chassis collection is the feature from Fallout 76, which you saw earlier, where if I unequip the chassis, it just immediately stays in my inventory and the armor gets collected onto it. In Fallout 4, you couldn't do this, so you can turn this off if you want. And then you will only be able to just exit the chassis to get out of it. Occasionally, if your inventory gets removed, say at the start of Dead Money or something, when you get your inventory back, you will have the chassis in your inventory, just because there's no real way around that without making a bunch of like direct scripted interventions for different scenarios, and I don't want to do that. It's very difficult to account for. The game's not designed for it at all. So the chassis collection feature is a very, I think, good sort of compromise option that allows the system to work in a way that isn't completely incompatible with a lot of vanilla scripting. You can disable stealth boys if you would like, so that when you get in a chassis, any active stealth boy gets disabled and you can't use one while you're in a chassis. And you can choose if helmets will require a chassis. By default they do, but if you wanted, for instance, you could have it so that you could equip a power helmet without the chassis. And this is because there's certain scenarios. There's a random encounter in Fallout 3, for instance, where there's two raiders. One of them has the power armor from a Dead Enclave member, and the other has the helmet. And the way I've set it up, if the guy just has a helmet, he doesn't get the chassis. So he won't be able to equip the helmet. He'll just have it in his inventory. I think that's fine. And I didn't want to like create duplicated like chassis out of nowhere or anything just for these raiders. So because the way obviously the mod works is it just adds the chassis to everyone who has power armor through a script if they need it, just to prevent compatibility issues. Instead of trying to like manually add the chassis to everyone with power armor, which would be ridiculous. But if I turn this off, I can also configure whether the helmets, when you exit a chassis, will the helmets go and sit on the standee mannequin in the world, or will they stay equipped? So you can configure that too if the helmets don't require the chassis. You can configure the strength bonus. By default, it sets your strength to 11, like in Fallout 4. When you exit a chassis, your AP increases by 30. This is a feature from Fallout 4, or at least there's a game setting for it in Fallout 4, so I implemented it. And by default, the chassis will increase the scale, the size of characters in the chassis by 15%, but you can configure that. You can configure the skill penalties. By default, they're set up like Fallout Tactics, but you can set them to whatever you want. And then you can also change what different buttons in the Pip-Boy do. So by default, if you equip it, if you click on it, or if you press the A button, it'll collect it if you have it equipped, or it'll automatically equip it if you don't have it equipped. If you drop it, right click, it will automatically deploy it into the world. And if you press the repair button, because chassis don't need to be repaired, you can open the inventory, and these are all configurable. There's a bunch of different options here for what those do. In the power settings, you can just turn this right off if you do not want a power system. That's totally fair. You can configure the order in which energy weapons ammo will get removed from the chassis, so that if you put more ammo on the chassis, than it needs to fully charge, it will return that extra ammo, and this just determines what order it goes in, whether it goes from the highest value or the lowest value first. So the way it works is higher values charge more power onto the chassis up to an upper limit, and then there's also a lower limit. So like bulk ammo does the least, while like alien power cells would charge the most. You can set the power level that you start to get the Pip-Boy warnings at, or the notification warnings at. By default, it's 25%. And you can configure what activities will actually drain power. So by default, running and using action points will reduce it. This is basically how it's set up in Fallout 4, but you can decide. All of these are the game settings in Fallout 4 that exist, though most of them were set to 0, so they don't actually... in Fallout 4, melee attacks don't reduce your power, but there was a game setting for it, so I duplicated it here if you would like for it to. So you can duplicate whatever your favorite Fallout 4 overhaul is if you wanted. You can configure whether you want the hood display to show up and where and how big you want it. And you can configure individual multipliers for wearing different armor sets. So by default, if you are wearing T45D, you will only have 90% of your power reduction, your normal level of power reduction. Whereas the T51B, it'd be 75%. And this is based on the number of pieces you have equipped. So if you have both the armor and the helmet equipped, you'll get 90%. But if you only have the armor equipped, you'll get a bit less than that. You'll get 5/6 of that bonus. Because most of the bonus will come from the armor, but wearing the helmet will give you a little bit of an extra bonus. And this is inspired by a cut feature from Fallout 4, where there are game settings for all of this, but they're not implemented, so all the power armor is drained at the same rate. And you can also make this a higher value. So if you wanted T45D to drain a lot more power, you could increase this all the way up to 300% power drain instead of, 90%. So that's more or less what I've got so far. The system is pretty complicated. Power Armor Chassis is overall the most complicated mod in the series. Power Armor Mod Kits has a lot of complicated functionality, but because it's very separated from the normal equip systems and the normal way that the game works, it's a lot safer and easier to implement. Whereas Power Armor Chassis is actually directly interfacing with a lot of game systems, preventing things from equipping armors, etc. And just requires a lot more testing and just general work on it. I still basically need to place almost all of the chassis in Fallout 3 in the world still. I've done most of the New Vegas ones. And they'll all be done through scripts, so there won't be any compatibility issues with world spaces and stuff, unless someone makes really major changes to world spaces or interior cells and the layouts, in which case the chassis might end up outside of the world. But overall, the placement is generally just done in a script that runs at the start of the game, so you don't have to worry about doing a whole bunch of extensive compatibility patching. Similar to the new version of Recon Under Armor, all of its world changes and its changes to quest rewards and stuff have all been converted into event handlers, so they no longer edit any vanilla game data like that, so they're much more compatible. In terms of a release timeline, Fallout 4 Power Armor Features is basically just waiting for Into the Rough to release his NVSE plugin, so I can then figure out how the jumping is going to work and test it. I've already seen the framework for the script, so I have it mostly written out, but I'll actually need to get my hands on the plugin to, actually test it and finalize it and make sure, for instance, the Power Armor mod kit's impact landing features work. The Recon Under Armor and the layered armor system, which is the just script runner that will work with the DLL to apply a generic version of the layered armor. That will be. I have to decide when I want to release the DLL, and that DLL potentially has a lot of problems and a lot of potential compatibility problems. It's only ever really been tested on my game, and I don't notice any major issues with it. There's a couple of bugs Confused still needs to fix. But once it gets in other people's games, obviously the game is not designed around being able to equip multiple items in the same slot at once, and there's just tons of potential issues from that I couldn't possibly test every permutation of that. For instance, I have no idea if like item durability works. I need to do some pretty extensive testing to figure out how that works. Like, does the top level item, is it still losing durability? Is the lower level items losing durability? Should they lose durability? I don't know that. So I'd need to look into that. And then, like, for instance, the faction armor scripts, those just aren't going to work. You're going to have to use a faction armor overhaul with this, because faction armor just assumes that you can only have one of the faction armor items equipped at once. But with this, you could theoretically have like 3 of them equipped at once, which obviously is not desirable, and the system is not designed for that, and it will break into 1,000 pieces if you do that. So you'd have to use a faction armor overhaul, and any script which is designed under the assumption that, you know, if you have T45D power armor equipped, it's going to be if you say get equipped object in slot 2, I'm going to get that T45D power armor. That's no longer necessarily true, because something could be on a higher layer. It won't be with these mods, but obviously in theory that could happen. So people need to kind of rethink how their scripts are written in some cases. 99% of the time, the way they've done it is probably fine, but in a few edge cases like those faction armor scripts, it's going to be a problem, and it can potentially cause a lot of havoc, especially with mods. So I'm not sure when I want to release that. Confused is working a lot on the new compiler, which is amazing and has made working on this so much easier. So I don't want to necessarily just release that and put a bunch more work on his plate. So I'll have to talk to him about when we want to get that released. And then chassis, I'd probably wait a while, as chassis is still, like, there's not all the features are even implemented. And it's pretty buggy. There's just so many different weird edge cases and things that can happen with chassis to debug that it's very hard to get it into a releasable, into what I would consider a releasable state. It's still pretty far away from being done. Once all of these are done, then the sort of last mod in this series will be Power Armor Distribution Overhaul, a reworked version of that, which will sort of... I'm not entirely sure what it will be at this point. I kind of want to split the Power Armor Torso object into the 5 different objects it is in Fallout 4, the left arm, left leg, and the torso, instead of just the upper body object. At one point I did try and get Confused to see if we could get like more actual armor slots, as obviously in New Vegas there's only the upper body and then body add-on 1, 2, and 3, which is pretty limiting. But I was told no, as that would be just too complicated with how mods and script extenders have been developed. It just wouldn't be feasible to add more slots. But I do think it still is workable, potentially, to make a mod with split up armor objects. Obviously, patchwork protection exists. I wouldn't do it exactly like that. And potentially there could be some application for using a DLL, even if you weren't adding new slots. You could still maybe set how DT and DR works for the existing slots potentially, which might be an avenue for doing it. But that is years and years away. I've already been working on this project for Recon Under Armor came out in 2018, and I've been working on the rest of this since around 2020. So That part is still, that part has barely even been started, and I don't even know really what I would want it to be. The core of it will be the Power Armor Station, like in Fallout 4, where you'll be able to paint and upgrade the power armors between different models. But obviously that creates a lot of problems as supporting all the different power armor mods for just textures and stuff. Like, would I just use pave as a base if I could get permission to do that, or should I use the vanilla textures? It opens a lot of questions, which I don't really want to deal with right now. I just want to let Power Armor Distribution Overhaul just sit in the future as something I may eventually get to. But I think I'd be really happy if I could get FO4 Power Armor Features, Recon Under Armor, and Power Armor Chassis out within the next year or so. For chassis, I mean, I would expect to be able to get Recon Under Armor. Recon Under Armor is done, basically. It's just the DLL needs to come out. And FO4 Power Armor Features, obviously, I'm just waiting for the other DLL to come out. So those should be done within the next few months, hopefully, and out. But chassis I wouldn't expect to see for quite a while. And I'd be pretty happy when those came out to just take a break and not have any active mods in this series to work on. I do still want to update as well Adrenaline, Stimpack Hotkey, Distributed Neck Chains. I have a bunch of other little mods. I'd like to make a Power Armor Headlamps mod, maybe, that would interface with Power Armor mod kits, as obviously the headlamps in Fallout 4 are mods to the Power Armor, and I've thought about that a few times while making it, so I do some preliminary setup in there. It would be pretty easy to add them to mod kits. So I might do that at some point. But yeah, this is... the chassis are the biggest thing, and the thing that's going to take the longest. But hopefully you'll be able to get your hands on Recon Under Armor and Fallout 4 Power Armor Features before too long. And also the Layered Armor System script runner, which will allow a more generic version of the system, which will be pretty cool and will allow people who don't want the rest of this more complicated stuff to at least test out the DLL and hopefully get modders designing around its existence, and, you know, getting bugs fixed, as I'm sure there are tons of bugs which I'd never be able to find if it's just me using it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully you'll stick with me while I try to get these finished. It's been a very long process, and I've got some motivation to do it right now, so I'm just trying to power through and get as much done as I can. Thank you.